everybody, how you doing? We made it to another Wednesday. Hope everyone's having a great week. I'm going to hit the live comments here, so if anyone is out there, I will be seeing you, I'm sure. Let's see, so we're just going to go to... Okay, did I hit Facebook? Okay, well, that's not good. So let's get rid of that. We're YouTube today. Let's see. So YouTube live chat. That's what we want to do. Okay, just take me one moment and I'll pull you guys up and see who's out there today. Wow, we got a lot of people out there. Actually, we got Jake and Willie and Wendy. How you guys doing? So cool to see you. Thank you so much for coming as always. So Jake says hit the home stretch, like a few days left of his painting, which is really great. Willie, what's new? Wendy, how are you? And Jake, I know you're doing great things with that painting. So this is Wednesday, part 3 of this painting. I think we may actually be able to finish this, but there's no rush, that's for sure. I mean, I don't ever want to do something just to like get it done, you know. So I'm really happy you're doing good, Wendy and Willie and Jake. So I'm glad you guys are really having a good Wednesday. It's always fantastic to hang out with you guys. Look forward to it all day long. I really do. Actually, all week long. You know, hanging out, talking about art. So I did something interesting today with different cameras. So let me show you. So we have this camera. So when I do, you know, the ink mixtures, you know, we can see everything. So I thought that would be really cool for you guys. And then this one where I can talk to you guys. And then we have this camera. This camera is interesting. I'm not sure whether or not you guys hear me, but I'm working on it. And then we have it's pretty cool. So I'm glad I'm able to do a lot of different angles for you and state of the art. But couple months down the line, we are actually going to do things that are even more state of the art than this. It's going to be very exciting, and it's something that, you know, I want you guys to realize that, you know, that this is a live stream that I do every week that is centered on you guys, centered on able to teach you new things, and even better than one of those videos that are edited. That's what I'm working for. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my Boxer Girl aside. Remember, when we start out airbrushing, whatever, we always start out with a thin mixture. That's always important to me, that we start out. So here's my cup, here's my water, and my ink. So what we always do is we always go let's see. So that's going to be 3 drops to 4 full eyedroppers. So we're going to do 9 and 12. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now we'll move over to our 3-inch. And I hope this is more helpful for you guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe one more. 'Cause you know you never get a full a full eyedropper, right? Never fully comes out, never fully loads. So then we just go ahead and mix it like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and load the Sotar 2020. Sotar 2020 Slim. So we'll load that bad boy right up here. And I take a bigger eyedropper, much more precise, and then I just 2 eyedrops. 1, 2. Not eyedroppers, but eyedrops. And then I just clean out my eyedropper. Move this over here. Move this over there. Take this cap off. And now we're going to come over here. And oh, okay, so the ink, let me double check on the ink chart. Let's see. You should hear me. Yeah, on this one you should be hearing me because I'm on the Yeti microphone. Okay. So can you guys hear me now? That's interesting because it should work. Oh, just now when I showed the ink chart. Oh, that was interesting. Okay. Very interesting. Yeah, you know, you never know what happens with these things. Even though I'm doing everything correctly, you know, the technology is still young. So, you know, we're gonna have some issues here and there. Let me get a quick paper towel, wipe that off. We don't want that to get on our picture. Okay, so we'll just wipe that off. We don't want moisture on the painting, that's for sure. So we have this here. And let's go ahead and test out our Sotar a little bit over here. Make sure we have the air pressure we want. Perfect, okay. Oh, so where do I get the magnets, Wendy asked? Those magnets you can get at Home Depot, you can get them at Lowe's, any of your home improvement stores, really inexpensive. These little ones and these are both available at Home Depot, which is great, really fantastic. So what I do right now is I'm just getting reacclimated with the painting, and I'll just work on, you know, some of the edges here. Since I'm working light, I'm not doing any, if I make any mistake, it's really nothing bad. So that's why you want to definitely work like this when you first begin. So once we start doing this, we're actually going to begin doing some really tighter detail because we're kind of at that stage today. So let's see. So and we're going to do a lot of erasing techniques, and we're going to start introducing the pastel, which is going to be great. Once we introduce the pastel, things get really cool. And the same thing, you know, right now we're going to start working on these eyes. And that's going to really bring things together. So how's everyone doing with their paintings today or this week? And let's see. And then we will start refining the eyelashes a little bit, I mean the eyebrows. Great, that sounds fantastic. So Jake says that he's going to do a ink painting on the paper with India Ink, which is exciting. So I can't wait to see that. Well, Jake says, why don't I use eraser pencils too to add texture? Because paper is a different ball game, and like anything else, you know, you have to be economic. Paper, you can't rub too much without the paper start getting damaged. Hey, Super Killer, good to see ya. How are you, man? Oh, so I owe you $70 art for those 2 ink kits you showed off last week. Oh man, so you went and bought it. That's fantastic. God bless you, man. You're gonna love them. I did Gal Gadot, and they were, you know, you put white with them, Super Killer, and I'll tell you, it's like working with acrylics, but better, because you never have to worry about whether or not they're shootable through the airbrush. You know what I mean? So that's why I love it. So you're gonna love them. Wendy has those inks, and what Super Killer is talking about. These bad boys from Dr. P.H. Martin's. This is set 2 with orange, which I use for the white to avoid blue shift. And then there's a set 1, and Wendy has both sets 1 and 2, which is really great. What I was saying to Jake is that since paper doesn't have that much before it gets damaged, if I go a little too hard, I could damage the paper. And I want to save this for when this doesn't work. So sort of like really being economic with the amount of give you have with this paper. And this is a little more gentle, you know, a lot more gentle. But you know, so over the weekend I did a painting that was on Masonite, and you can get a little tougher with that. You could use electric erasers, razor blades, you can do, but it's not as erasable as this is. I mean, this is paper. This particular paper erases like almost like a pencil, which is really great. Oh yeah, exactly. So Super Killer says the inks aren't there yet, but hey, that's something good to look forward to. And yes, Dick Blick does take their sweet time. I'm lucky because I think their warehouse, sometimes they ship out of Jersey. I get it like next day, even though I pay for like 2 weeks shipping. So that's a little trick for Jersey people. If you pick like expedite, it's going to arrive probably slower if you just picked regular. Okay, so, and also we want to make sure that we soften things up. She's looking a little harsh, and that's one of the things I want to do in this session is just soften things up a little bit. And like I said earlier, we are doing a mixture of three dots of India ink to 4 full eyedroppers of the water, and you can see we're getting a nice light value here. That's an eyeball, not a nipple. Okay, it's gotta make sure I'm not drawing bad pictures. Oh boy, that's funny. what I love about the Badger so far is that the Badger does not have the same issues that the Iwatas have. When the Iwatas get some paint right there, what happens is a lot of times you'll put down the trigger and paint will come out. I'm not seeing that at all. I've had this airbrush now for like what, 3-4 weeks now, and I don't see that at all. That's not happening at all. So I don't know what Badger did, but just for that one thing, it just seems like it's a little better construction in that aspect. Because I hate that. I hate when my Iwatas, you know, hey, I'm ready to paint, and I put down the air, and then out comes a little bit of paint flow, and that's just, you know, kind of ruins my day, because, and then I have to stop brushing, and you know how it is. It gets really annoying, right? That's for sure. Yeah, you know, Super Killer, they really did. I mean, I'm really happy that I am on their side with this, because I can't stop using it, quite frankly. I mean, I have an Eclipse, I have a Highline, I have two microns, but this just feels good. It just feels like a pencil. So I guess I want to get used to this, because it just feels more like an everyday airbrush. See how this erases even at this late stage. And I'm using just a soft eraser, you know. I'm not doing anything, you know, harsh, because number one, the paper would get destroyed. And that's how this whole medium was born, because, you know, I was just testing it out and seeing, you know, I began a drawing in pencil of Natalie Wood, and I'm like, hey, what if I just did it in airbrush? What would it be like? And the rest is history. Let's try a different angle. And you guys can hear me, I hope. Let me see. So I have, yep, it should be the Yeti microphone, my big microphone, so you guys should hear me. But just a different angle so you can see a little more of the action, so to speak. So I have these other cameras of webcams, and what I want to do eventually is have those other cameras DSLRs. That is what's going to really put this live stream untouchable compared to other ones. A little more money, but I think it's going to be worth it. Worth it definitely for teaching. Okay, great. And you guys can hear me well now? Because I'm doing a little bit different with cameras, so when I change the cameras, it's a little bit, you know, I have to switch microphones really quick. Wendy says, oh, Super Killer likes that view. Oh, thanks. I do too. It's a little different, right? A little wider. And Wendy says she likes seeing the reference photo. And the sound is good. What I have to do is when I switch cameras, I don't talk, because I have to switch the microphone really quick, because I have the same camera in different scenes. It's just technical mumbo jumbo. And I'm getting a little creative with it. first couple of minutes is always just, you know, getting the kinks out, and before we start doing anything of consequence here on the live stream as far as the painting goes, we have to sort of, you know, get into the rhythm. Really good documentary that you guys should see. It's on YouTube. You should type in The Power of Art, Mark Rothko. It's really amazing. Just, you know, if you haven't liked abstract art before, when you watch this documentary about Mark Rothko, you'll understand that, you know, we may not like his work, but he did come from a good place. That his work did have a lot of integrity, and he had a lot of integrity as an artist. Really good, very inspiring. I watch it a lot, but you know, Mark Rothko is very interesting. He does those color fields, and it's not just like, oh, he just did like a canvas that's all red or a canvas all blue. No, these are very interesting how he juxtaposes colors next to one another. And one of the things that he said is really beautiful. He says that his colors are actors, and I thought that was fantastic. So I'm going to start a separate blog that's going to be just for this. And I'm going to start it this week. I do have a blog right now. It's on pastel and airbrush and live streams. But I'm going to keep one just for pastels. And I'm going to do one that is just for India Ink and Airbrush. And that's going to be really cool. I'll have different offers from manufacturers and stuff for you guys. Coupon codes, everything like that, which will be wild. And also some really cool articles. And maybe even definitely will show your work on the blog. So when you guys and girls, you do something using India Ink and the airbrush, I'll post it on the blog and it'll be just ours. So what do you guys think of this? Let me make sure you guys hear me. Yes, you should hear me. Okay. What I want to do is call it, what do you think of like ink slingers? That's what I'm going to, ink slingers is going to be the name of the website, pretty much what the name we are. I think we're ink slingers. I think that's pretty cool. And it'll be just like, well, there'll be forums where we can all just, you know, if we want to just talk and have any ideas, or if you have any questions about India inks and colored inks, that would be fantastic, and we can all share. Oh, you like that name? Oh, cool. I think it's a pretty catchy name, right? Ink Slingers. I think it's pretty cool. And I looked it up. No one has it. So it's not like a rock band or something like that. Right now I'm just doing a little flex in her iris. It's never been my strong suit, guys, because when I was trained to simplify the eye, not to get really tightly detailed, as you know, as the airbrush world has taught us. Oh yes, detail is fun. I want the edge to be soft on the inside. On the outside of this darkness here, I want it to be a hard edge. But on the inside, I want it to be definitely soft. So notice I keep the air down. That's crucial. One of the things I teach my airbrush students. Do not, paint, turning the air off, turning it back on. That's not good. It's going to be much more difficult for you to control. Plus, when you start and stop, the air is going to be more irregular at the beginning of every start. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do some of that hard edge on the outside. So we can vary this. Notice I'm going to wipe the freehand shield after every spray. I just want to hit the outside, not the inside. Everything that I do on one eye, I'm going to do on the other eye, meaning, as far as the amount of time I'm working on those eyes. So let's go ahead and work on this eye a little bit. Okay, and so this eye sort of, the bottom sort of comes up just before the bottom eyelid here. Okay. So Super Killer says, do I have anyone local you get to talk airbrush with? No. Oh, well, yeah, I have my students. And I do have my student, Brian. He's my neighbor, and we talk airbrush, so that's cool. But yeah, mostly in the regular world, even artists, the artists don't even want to do airbrush. They're afraid. They're afraid of the airbrush. Rightfully so. Right, guys? It's not for wimps. The airbrush takes fortitude to learn how to ride this like bronco buck, right? I mean, think about it. This is a hard medium, and most of the fine art guys, they give up. And you know what? Too bad on them. And then they go ahead and complain that we're able to get soft edges and really beautiful hard edges, use Frisket film, stuff they can't do. And then they say we're cheating, right? That's funny. Funny stuff. Airbrush. And I was thinking today about airbrush. As artists, we owe it to ourselves to use this medium because we can do things that you can't do in other mediums. I mean, you can get softness you can't get, right? Super Killer, Wendy, Willie, Jake, you just can't get it any other way. I'm not giving that up. And let me stay focused and focused on the eyes. Even though I like moving around, sometimes it pays not to move around a little bit. So what I'm doing right now is I'm sort of carving out some of the eyelashes here. That's the great thing about this medium. You can actually carve stuff out. And Wendy says you can't get gradation or the softness. Exactly. And Jake says that's why I had to look up airbrush tutorials months back, because acrylic can't do what airbrush can, not by itself. You're right, it just can't. And Superkiller says he wants to do hairy brush, but every time I use it's a total disaster. Well, that happens. Like anything else, it just takes a while to get used to it. You're a talented artist, so you know, it's whether or not you want to, you know, maybe you just don't have patience for it. That's all. But no, your work really is great, Superkiller. So it's not because you can't do it. It's probably just you're just not inspired. That happens. I mean, everybody here, you know, are really, really fantastic. So you guys are all great artists. So the only thing about airbrush is that it's noisy. You know, so now I have a full-time job, like a 9 to 5, 8:30 to 5, right? And you know, you just, you know, it's really hard making a living. You know, I tried it. It's really hard. I can do it, but I think I'm not at the point yet where I can completely cut the cord of a 9 to 5. So I'm doing a 9 to 5 job. Then when I had a 9 to 5, yes, always a silver lining, my friend. With the 9 to 5 job, someone said to me that you can't be a serious artist and have a 9 to 5 job. Well, that was like the most asinine thing I heard anyone say in my life, because they don't know me. So I get up at 5:30 in the morning, 5:45, and I paint before I go to work. Then I go ahead and I paint for like about an hour and a half, and then when I come home I'll paint for another 2-3 hours. So I'm still doing my, you know, 5 to 6 hours, right? You know, Wendy, you're right. 9 to 5, you need to art supplies. For me, I need to be on the cutting edge of technology because this channel is very important to me. And I don't just want this channel to be very good, because the other guys are going to catch up. Eventually, they're going to start doing what I'm doing. And I don't want that. I don't want to just be another live stream. I want this to continue being really, really much better than everyone else. So I got plans, and I'm expanding my YouTube channel, my blog. So I'm building something that is going to take care of me for a long time. And so it's very, you know, it's something that, you know, you have to do. And it's not easy. It's not easy, but I'm thankful for my 9 to 5 job. You know, I'm happy I have it, and I'm going to give 100% to it, like I give 100% while I'm here in the studio. And that's what makes me successful in the working day world as I do in my art. And yes, starving artist is no joke, and that's exactly it, Superkiller. And Jake says, what am I doing? I am working for a company, and I'm doing some, you know, technical stuff, you know, computer stuff, that sort of thing. But like I said, art suffers before it's successful. But you know what? I love it, right? Yeah, right. Can't be serious working 9 to 5, right? Exactly. Anyone who says that is an ass. Because, like they don't know me, Jake. They don't know how hard. They don't know my heart. I got heart. So they don't know how much I love it, how much you guys love art. So, that guy who said it almost got a punch in the head. And he said it to me in person, too. So that was one of the times someone almost got a punch. It was funny. But you got to look at things in a positive way. What can we learn from it? How does it... Gauguin used to dig ditches so he could paint. Paul Gauguin. I mean, look at that. Jake says he works 32 hours a week and paints all day after. Yes, you're serious. Exactly. That's exactly it. And we have to do what we have to do. Can't paint if we're homeless. Well, we can, but, we'll be very limited. Now, Wendy, you said, does he sell and feed himself? Was this the artist who said that, or was this Paul Gauguin? Now, Paul Gauguin, interesting thing about Paul Gauguin, he actually was a stockbroker and was a very famous stockbroker. And I'm sure you all know this, but Paul Gauguin used to like dabbling in art and painting, and he used to buy paintings from a lot of the Impressionists. And one day he became friends with Pissarro, who, if you ask me, is the father of Impressionism. And Pissarro and him became friends, and Pissarro looked at Gauguin's work and said, "Oh, you're really good," and gave him some pointers. And before you know it, Gauguin quit being a stockbroker and became a painter. And he had a wife and kids, and it was very, very rough. And his wife got very mad. She moved back to Amsterdam. Was it Amsterdam or Denmark? And it was very sad because eventually he moved in with his wife's family in Denmark or the Netherlands. And eventually they were very mean and they kicked him out because he had this love for art, and he kind of lost his family over it. It's kind of sad. But we wouldn't have Paul Gauguin if this didn't happen. That's the accounts. That's what the art historians are saying what happened. So it's interesting. So Wendy says, read The Art of War. Huge book. Don't remember it. The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Every battle is... Super Killer says, have you ever read Sun Tzu? Yes. Very good book. Every battle is won or lost before it's ever fought. That's my whole technical thing. That's when, why I don't just paint. I set up like sort of a manifesto of the succession of what I'm going to do. So I know that the painting is going to be successful before it's even start. Hey, Kingston 1816, how are you? Good to see you. How's everything? Thank you so much for stopping by. It's so great. So we're doing part 3 of this painting, which is a boxer girl. And, we're doing some detail here and there before we start coming in with the pastel. And I'm doing some really tight detail with this airbrush, the Sotar 2020 slim. We're really working on her eye there. So Jake says he's going to send me a link. What are you going to send me a link of? Let's see. The War of Art. Oh boy, the War of Art, huh? That's interesting. Oh, I see. Okay. Now, oh, Super Killer, you're saying the War of Art, not the Art of War. Oh, no, I haven't. That's interesting. So who's the author of that? Sorry about that. Definitely got to check it out if you guys recommend it. Stephen Pressfield, about turning pro. I turned pro years ago. I make a lot of, not a lot of money, but I make enough money to support myself from my art, but I don't quite want to just do that just yet. I've gone pro a very long time ago, my friend. Let's see. Oh man, you know what? I don't need a book on that. I need a book to get myself out of the chair so I can do some editing. That's my thing. As far as painting goes, Jake, believe me, I don't want to hear that. I don't need that. I actually, like I told Wendy, it's almost like I'm obsessed with, you know, how many hours a day I spend. I don't need some guy telling me that, you know, what I need to get off my ass to paint. So I don't think so. Because what happens is, for me, I have to do a little more of the business aspect of the art. And that's something that I learned that they're not going to teach you anywhere, is how to make money from it. And that is, that's something that is even more important sometimes. Is how are you going to monetize? What are you going to do to make this pay for itself? And not only that, but support us in the future, right? What are we going to do about that? Now, how much, if our art is a corporation, like let's say Starbucks or Barnes & Noble, how's that corporation doing? Is that corporation making some money? You know what I mean? So you know what I mean, Jake? That's the kind of stuff I want to teach. I want to teach that, you know what, there's ways that we can afford these art supplies. There's a ways that we can monetize what we're doing so we can continue doing it. As far as like getting off my ass and painting, man, that's not something I need, you know? That's not something that I need some guy, and I guarantee the guy's not working as hard as me. So that's an interesting thing. All right, so let's see. No, I'm gonna check out the book, definitely. I'm gonna check it out because I'm always, you know, I'm a big reader, so I definitely, you know, love hearing what people have to say about art and everything. One thing that was interesting, have you guys ever read Tim Ferriss and his book called the 5-Hour Work Week or something like that? Very popular. And I was on board with that book because he was talking about, you know, how, you know, it's important to have passive income and, you know, get information. stuff like that. But then there was a passage where he said, and then I just jumped off because he had said that he says we shouldn't be reading. We really shouldn't be. We really shouldn't be reading, wasting our time reading. That we should get our information, you know, really quickly and not read books. But reading books is really the 4-Hour Work Week. Yes, I really think it's a good book. But that one thing he said where we shouldn't waste our time reading, that was crazy. And you know, at that point, you know, I didn't stop reading it, but I was like, wow, that's the wrong thing to say, because, you know, books basically give you all the information you need, you know, I mean, to, you know, grow as a person in every way. So little by little, you can see I'm actually softening things up, and I'm putting in more details, setting up for yeah. Wendy says, "Wouldn't you lose your job if you're supposed to work 40?" Very true. And what Tim Ferriss basically is saying is that the 40-hour work week is something that we don't need to do. That with ways of making money today with passive income, such as blogs, affiliate links, all things like that, those different aspects, yeah, I mean, it is getting to the point where it's easier to make money not going to a 9-to-5 job, because your time for money is really a very bad proposition, it's a very bad business proposition. But yeah, I mean, I'm working on that. That's something I'm working on in my life, right? Yes, independently wealthy. I would like that. Didn't win the lottery. Did you guys play that crazy lottery that was like something like, I don't know, like $1.6 billion? I played, but I didn't win. Now, I've been doing this this channel now. Oh, Wendy, you played it. Got the power number. Okay, cool. But no other numbers. Oh, bummer. There are ways to make passive income, but that takes time, and that is something that is very, very difficult for. Yeah, that's a lot of airbrushes, Willie. And Superkiller says he refused to give money to that system. His art supplies bleed him dry as it is. Yeah, I hear you. That's for sure. One of these days, I'm going to do a live feed where we're just going to talk about ways to make money as an artist. Is that something you guys would be interested in? Because I think if you were interested in, I would do a live feed just for that. Just like how you could buy a brand new airbrush, and I'll guarantee that you'll be able to pay for that airbrush within a couple of weeks. That I can guarantee. Wow, that is a lot of waffles. And what I'm doing here is I'm really paying attention to some of the edges. I'm going to go back to here, this other. So I'm going back to this angle here so you can see that I'm looking at the edges. Paying attention to edges. and what's happening, and whether the edge is hard or soft, what is juxtaposed right next to it, and that's what's really going to help with the realism. And notice I'm not worried about at all. I'm not worried about values. Values are going to take care of itself. As you can see, I have no problem with that because I'm building values. If I was trying to hit that value right away, like, okay, like here's day one, I'm going to start painting, and I want to hit that value, bam, right away, I'm going to be doing a great big disservice because I'm not building the whole painting up together. She's not coming together as one whole person. She's coming together as a bunch of little pieces. That's my style. That's what I built over time. And that's something that you will learn over time. That's something that comes, that doesn't come right away. I'm going to switch cameras back. Okay, great. So everybody can hear me? Well, that's really nice. Wendy says she likes my photo better. That's very nice to hear. Thank you, Wendy. And you can see as I'm getting a little bit more involved in the painting, guys, that I'm starting to get that softness. She's starting to look like a girl, not so harsh before. And I think it was a little harsh. But stick with the program. That's what I really stress. If you stick with the program, if you stick with paying attention to building values, paying attention to the drawing you already established, and don't get emotional if it doesn't look right. Just go with it. Stay with the plan, right? Sort of like whoever took you to the dance, that's who you have to go home with. So if you started with this drawing in the beginning and it doesn't look right, that's okay. Don't get emotional and jump ship. And then all of a sudden you got out of a ship that wasn't sinking. So Superkiller says, are you getting more feedback with the airbrush work than you are doing with traditional? Funny you should say that. So yes, with the airbrush work, I think I have more of a forum. I believe that my work is getting more attention than when I was doing the traditional work, because that's a hard nut to crack. I mean, they're established. Those people are entrenched, the fine art people. They know each other. Now, I was entrenched in that. I was a scholarship student at National Academy School of Fine Arts, Art Students League, High School of Art and Design. I studied with the biggest names in New York City. And I was able to get in there and get into the shows and everything. But I don't know, it just, like, to get to that next level, it just was more difficult for me. One of the reasons why I decided to go, and this is a personal thing, guys. I'm going to go a little personal Tim stuff. So my wife at the time and she was my student, and she became very good, and she was winning all kinds of awards. And she was winning international awards and national awards. We were known as the couple in the pastel world in New York City. Our work was all over the country. One year between the two of us, we won 30 awards throughout different shows. So if it gets boring, guys, please let me know. And so things happened, and we split up, and and we got a divorce. And it was a really hard time for me as an artist, as everything. I stopped creating. I didn't know what to do, and I was stopped showing my work. and I was kind of lost. I was kind of lost as a pastel painter. I don't know. It just seemed like it was attached to everything. Everything that was not there anymore. So, Airbrush kind of brought me back, too, because I started going into Airbrush because it was something different. I needed a change in my life. It couldn't be the same old, and me continue just as, you know, like nothing happened. Like I'm just going to create. Look at case in point, Picasso. He lost his friend, and his friend killed himself, and that was really painful for him, and that's how he started his blue period. And yeah, I had a wife for 12 years. She was my best friend for, you know, a good 7 years before that. And amazing artist. She's still an amazing artist. And she was my student. And, you know, and he created his blue period because of the reaction. So anyway, long story short, sorry about that. It is definitely, you know, one of the reasons why I went into Airbrush. Oh, Jake says not a photorealist yet. Never want to be a photorealist. I don't aspire to be a photorealist. Photorealism is a dead end. It's like you're going really fast, and yeah, you're gonna be a photorealist. Okay, then what? What are you gonna do when you become what a photorealist do when they become a photorealist? There's nowhere to go. Okay, you're a photorealist. Now what? That's why I love seeing stuff. I love, you know, Jackson Pollock, and I love, you know, different artwork where people do ink splatters and, you know, realism with some abstract here and there. But definitely photoreal. I think photorealism is great. It's great to aspire to. If it happens, it happens. But definitely, I don't ever want to be a photorealist. So I want to hear from you guys. Enough about me. What are your favorite artists out there? You know, as far as art history, someone whose work that you look at and you're like, oh my God, that's what I aspire to. But not only technically, work that emotionally you look at, and what paintings you look at and you're like, holy cow, I feel so much from it. I would love to hear. Wendy says she would like to be that's nice, Jake, but that's not fair. No, it can't be me. Wendy says she'd like to be a photorealist for a month. That's funny. What happens after the month's over? Jeremy Carey's Boris Vallejo. Yeah, Vallejo, Frank Frazetta. Those guys were fantastic, weren't they? Wow. And a lot of people like Jeremy Carey. He's very popular lately, which is very cool. Good for him. I'm happy to see him being successful. Oh, and then Wendy's going to be doing something else once she becomes a photorealist. How about yourself, Super Killer? Whose work do you look at, whether you're at an art museum or gallery, and really blows your mind? Yes, definitely. Definitely some good ones. How about the work of George Innes, a landscape painter, someone who's outside the box from what you do, like a different genre? So what I'm doing is I'm taking a freehand shield, and I'm just going to cover up this area here. So this way I retain that beautiful nostril there. So Super Killer, okay, you know, we're all not, you know, 100% into, you know, art history or anything like that. That's cool. And Jake says, check out Stephen Killer, the watercolor. Yeah, I've seen his stuff, definitely. Steve Hanks is a great watercolor painter. I like his stuff. He passed away a couple of years ago. Very sad. Thomas Eakins. Check out the work of Thomas Eakins. Really, really nice. Claude Monet. Okay, so what do you like about Claude Monet? Do you like the... Now, he's an impressionist, quote unquote. But besides that, what is it? Is it the subject matter that you like a lot? When I was a young man, I hated abstract expressionism, but as an artist that's been around, I like it a lot more. So there's, oh, Jurek, yes. He is really good. He does those like jaguars and stuff with the fur. Yeah, he's very interesting. I've seen a lot more of him. Now that the Airbrush magazine is defunct, a lot of those guys aren't getting any airplay anymore, which is a shame. But, you know, it's actually an advantage for artists like us. We can get more airplay because now they're on an equal footing with us. They're not getting all that attention from that magazine. So Jake says, love the man, watch the Impressionist documentary. Yeah, Claude Monet was a very interesting character. His dad, you know, was a businessman, wanted him to work in the business, but he had this crazy obsession like we do. And, you know, he had it rough in the early going. His friend Renoir, you know Renoir, of course, another great impressionist, was his friend. Renoir came from money, so he was basically able to help out Monet with food and stuff. Yes, Superkiller says Instagram and Facebook have really exposed how many great artists out there. It's so true, right? And Facebook and, you know, just talking to you guys. I mean, what a pleasure that I get to meet great artists like you all. And you guys inspire me. So you guys are even more important than the art historian guys. The artists from art history, because you guys are alive. Thank God. So now, as you can see, I'm going to be doing some paintbrush work. So let's go ahead and do that. We might have another week with this particular painting. Like I said, I don't ever want to rush it to, there's no timetable, right? Definitely no timetable when it comes to working on a painting. Especially when we're doing live streams, when the most important thing is that we all learn from this. I learn by doing it. You guys learn by watching. And you see, with the paintbrush, I'm able to just reiterate some of these lines here. Give some intensity to her gaze. Remember, it's soft on the inside, harder on the outside, and that's what gives sort of a interest to her iris. But I can't wait for the white pastel. As always, it's just gonna bring it together. And Superkiller says he follows a few tattoo guys, and they are just doing outstanding. Yeah, definitely. Tattoo artists are definitely on the edge, and the same thing with airbrush artists, and doing some like really amazing, very creative stuff. And I think like the alternative artists, the tattoo artists, the airbrush artists, you know, they're in a whole different world, and they don't have people telling them 24/7 how amazing they are. I mean, they're trying to make a living, and they're working to get better, and they're doing it 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and they're just getting really, really good. So as you can see, we're really coming together with some detail here. And the same thing as always, it's like there are no points for, hey, I did the whole thing in airbrush. Okay, that's great, but could it have been easier or done a little better if you use a paintbrush or a crow or a pen, right? So whatever you use to make a better painting, that's what's the best thing to do. Let's see here. Wendy says she would be scared to tattoo something on a person's body because they would have to live with it. Oh, yeah, that's true. It's like, oops, that would be bad. And then Superkiller says, in fact, he's surprised how many artist guys I follow also do tattoo work. It's interesting because I think, okay, we work with guns, right? Airbrush gun, and then the tattoo gun is very similar. The work is, the subject matter is very similar to custom airbrush. Not so much stuff that I do, but if I was a custom guy, I'd be doing a lot of skulls and stuff like that. So it would be even an easier transition. It wouldn't be a bad way to spend a day, right? But it's just I don't like the fact of bloodying people up. But massive respect to the tattoo artists. I watched that show, which is very inspiring. Ink Master, you guys like that? That's really good. Yes, gadgets. Gadgets are the thing. That's why, that's like the best. Going to the computer store, going on YouTube to see what the latest gimbal is, the latest webcam, different kind of software. That's really bad. Bad because I spend all my money. I guess that's my vice. And a good thing, though. It's my vice. So Willie says he used to go to the mall and spend hours watching the guy painting t-shirts in airbrush. Sometimes would buy a t-shirt just to watch him paint. Something I wanted to see. Wow, that's pretty cool. Oh, man. Yeah, those airbrush artists are pretty cool when they do those t-shirts. Have you guys ever seen the work of Kent Lind? He's amazing. He's like my favorite t-shirt artist in the world. The guy is unbelievable. He did a t-shirt painting of Pink. It was on one of the Airbrush Action magazine's cover. Really, really kick butt. Just so fantastic. So I'm getting some detail here with the contours of the eyelashes. And that's just softening her up. Kent is amazing, right, Superkiller? Yeah, so definitely in agreement. That's true. An incredibly nice guy. Just, when I was beginning airbrush, he actually would talk to me. Really great. I remember when I first started, I was like, wow, I think your stuff's great. And he would Oh, yes, L. There it is. Lind. Yep. Really great guy. Okay, so I'm happy with her eyes so far. Now, let's go ahead and work on some of these really light eyelashes here. There we go. Just really getting just some tight detail, more like things sort of like landmarks. Not so much worried about the detail, but I'll know where the eyelid begins and ends by looking at these little details here. When you're doing eyebrows, always make sure that you have a distance between the strokes. That's what's really going to help, and make sure that you try not to be parallel from one eyebrow hair to another, because they're not parallel, and I want you to look. They're going in all different directions. If they're parallel, it's going to look like one of those like women who paint them on, and that's not, you know, it's not a good look when you're painting. So Super Killer says, you watch those guys a lot like a carnival, and they are putting out a t-shirt in 6. Yeah, that's crazy, right? But repetition, that's the secret to everything. Over the summer, I basically painted about 8 hours a day, every day. And the control I have over the airbrush now is because of that. No one could teach that. That's what I always say. Whenever someone says to you, oh, I can teach you control. No, you can't. You can't teach control. You can teach people how to hold the airbrush. You can teach them more like watching you. That's the best way. And so just doing some nice nice little hairs here and there. And I'm actually setting up the white pastel. Coming in a few moments. When we do the white pastel, then we're going to go ahead and actually start incorporating dark accents by using a very dark ink ratio with water. So the water is actually very low and the ink is very high. And that's how we build it. Now, this is, the technique is different. A lot of people use transparent colors with airbrush and just go darker and darker as, you know, you could layer and layer and it gets darker and darker. But I like going the other way, which is putting a layer and then doing a darker mixture and then doing a darker mixture, and then you get a little better edge work, and you're sort of more paying attention to the breaks of values and accents and highlights. I hope that helps. And let's see, you watch those guys? Okay. And so Jake says, Bobby waves to the live stream, Tim. Oh, hey, Bobby, how you doing? How's it going? Bobby is Jake's brother. And very cool. Yes, and Jake and Willie says that Willie says that the airbrush guys make good money. They really do. But that's a lot of work, and that's pressure work, right? That's customer service. You're gonna have to deal with people, and you know that's not easy. You know, I used to do something very different but similar. I used to work at a baby store, and you know, parents would purchase piggy banks and furniture, and they would want superheroes or, you know, little cute little animals on the piggy banks and furniture, and I would do that and do the name, and I would do that with paint markers, and it was very much like that atmosphere. And that's not easy, because sometimes you'll do something and you love it and they'll just hate it, and then you don't get anything. I was an employee. Oh, I'm so glad I made Bobby laugh. So cool. Very cool. Good to see you, Bobby. Okay. And we are setting up the white, and then we're going to go in with the dark. So let's take a look at the other angle here. So Super Killer says, you hear the Florida guys talking, they say a bulk of their money for the whole year comes from spring breaks and bolt. You know what? That's so true, because they have all those all that money in their pockets. That's what I'm talking about, basically, is how do we monetize just a little bit. I'm not talking a lot, guys, but just a little bit, where our art sort of makes us financially better. You know, how can we do that without selling out, right? That's the tightrope. That's the dilemma. That's what I find. What can I do to make money and to make my life easier, so I can do things, continue to buy the best art supplies, continue to create really cool live streams and not have to depend on a job for all that, but have that extra money and build a future, right? And that's what we want to do, build a future. So when we're not doing other things, art is going to pay for ourselves and take care of other people. And I think we can do that, but we have to get into that mindset. And that's something that I really want to teach. Willie says he spent much of the time watching the guy, and oh, you got a job clean. That is really cool. How cool is that? So Willie, so what was it? Was he using those eclipses? Those bottom feed eclipses? That's usually what the airbrush artists use, huh? Well, Super Killer, your work is really fantastic. There's no reason why you can't make money. That's for sure. I think it's just, you know, there are ways. I've helped people actually, you know, I helped one guy save his mortgage once. Save his house. He was a talented artist. He had, you know, work. And I was able to help him make money. You have to hustle. You have to hustle. You have to start now to gain collectors. So when you do a piece of artwork, they're right there and they're anxious to get it, because they know you, they trust you, they have your work, and like anything else, if they're a fan of yours, they're going to want to buy more. But you're not going to get fans if we're not going to get fans if we don't get our work out to people who are buying art. Now, Jake, I read something, if I'm not mistaken, that you purchased, you sold a couple of pieces. In the early going, it doesn't matter how much it is. That's the trick. In the early going, it doesn't matter how much you sell your work for. What matters is that you gain collectors who are going to be looking, and you create a mailing list. So when you do a new piece of, let's say you do a nude, you can let them know, hey, I did a nude and this is a new piece. Or if you did a landscape and you sold to someone, then you can go ahead and say, hey, I just sold this piece, and what do you think? Are you interested? But if you sell something and you don't get the email, they're never going to know about you. You have to you have to play it like a business. And in the early going, you gotta give some stuff away for a steal, but it's all like an investment, right? So Jake said he sold a few small pieces. Congratulations. Not collectors. That's where you're wrong. Anyone who buys your work is a collector. They're collecting you. They're collecting your work. A collector is not just some, guy with a mustache living in Upper East Side. A collector is anyone who bought your work because they love it. They are automatically a part of your career. They're automatically attached to you forever. And that's how you set up little emails like, hey, I'm doing this, check out my blog or check out my email, or, nothing, someone owns your work. There's nothing more exciting for them to see more work by you. Even if they're not buying it, be like, wow, look at this guy. I own a piece of his. You see? And let's say times are hard. You lose your regular job. You can create 10 pieces, contact your collectors, and you could sell your work. That's the thing. And you can slowly raise your prices up. I sold probably in the last 2 months, I sold about $2,000 worth of artwork. And that's something that I may share with you guys if you want to know about that stuff in a future live stream. But I always say that we have to treat our art as if it's a business. And, sometimes, like, I love doing this stuff. This stuff doesn't sell. But my nudes sell like crazy. So, I love painting my nudes. Don't get me wrong. My nudes are really, I don't know. My nudes, I love doing them. And I have a real nice collection of people who are excited about it, and that's encouraging. But other stuff that I do, I'm not going to find a collector so easily. Let me show you something I've been working on. Jeff Lafferty, he goes into a lot of the business stuff, and he says he has been live streaming and doing YouTube stuff for years. I gotta check him out, Super Killer, definitely. Definitely. Let me go ahead and see if I could show you what I do in the mornings before work. I've been working on this, and I want to know what you guys are thinking. See how we can go from very harsh and then we can go to soft, almost like the wing of a butterfly. So we can do hard stuff, like what we did here, more rough, and then we can go very soft. And I think that's what I love about Airbrush. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Oh, Willie has a great question. How you price art is how much people are going to pay for it. If you want to sell it, if you're a motivated seller, you're going to have to price your work for what the market is. Willie, what's your main subject matter? We'll just use you as an example, sir. And I'll just show you one of the ways that you could actually price your work. Thank you, Wendy, for that. I appreciate that. Superkiller says he thinks Artcast on Facebook was the first time he's seen, Now, you seen me post something? It could have been, definitely. I'm not sure, yeah. I post a lot, so I'm not sure if that was one of mine, Super Killer. Like, let's say, Willie, your subject matter is, or, well, I'll give you some time, Willie. If you don't want to participate, that's cool. Okay, no problem. I definitely. So, I'll give a case in point. I'll give an example. Let's say you like, someone likes doing still lifes, or still lifes are something that. So you go on eBay, and you look up still lives of pears, and then you see pears. So let's say you work in acrylic. So you look for acrylic paintings. You do a search of acrylic paintings of pears, and you see work that is similar in style, subject matter, that sort of thing. And then you see people who are selling them. Then you do a search on what has sold. And then you go even deeper and you see how much they're selling for. So you pick the artist who is selling, who's most like you, and selling subject matter that's most like paintings that you have. Or you can change your subject matter for those particular paintings, start doing them, and charge around the same price of the established people. Maybe a little bit, maybe undercut them a little bit because you're new. And that's how you do marketing to sell your work. And that's how you find the prices. It works. It definitely does. So if you're going to do a still life, and you have to find out what fruit sells the most. And how you do that is just basically marketing. You just do some marketing and find strategies to sell your work. Now, you can do stuff that just you do for yourself. That's going to be much harder to sell. And plus, it's going to be much harder to find a price. So that route, as far as selling your work, is not as good. Not as easy. Yeah, I know, I sort of digressed into something, but yeah, I guess the fact that, it's important that we do, try and make some money from what we do, what we work so hard at. It's not a bad thing. I'm going to go into pastel a little bit. This is not going to be done this painting is not going to be done this week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I don't damage the work I've done. So Super Killer says he must have been in the Iwata group on Facebook, and my name is enlisted as a member of the Artcasters. Oh, okay. So someone might have reposted or something like that. That could have happened. I know, Super Killer, that I'm on the Iwata page. There's an Iwata page that I'm on. You might have seen me there. A couple of them. I want you guys to see how beautiful this looks. Look at this. It just sort of comes together, like everything. Just like spring, It's cold, and all of a sudden, it's warm. And I think that's the beauty of this, is that we're taking our time, and we're not worried about getting the exact value or anything like that. We're just sticking with the program until the end. Yeah, it's kind of a nasty part of art. It's sort of the stuff we don't want to talk about. I don't always want to talk about it, but there's nothing wrong with a few bucks in the pocket, right? Gray Kansan is not the answer, though, Jake. you want to go with this Canford paper. It's really the best. And let's see if I could show you. You have to get it from Blick. They're the only guys that have it, I think. Here it is. It's this particular painting is done on gunmetal, and it's by De La Rowney and it's Canford. And I really shouldn't mention their name because they're not showing me any love. So I really hate advertising for a company that doesn't email me back. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to slowly build this eye here. And it's just going to, yeah, definitely 100%, even though, you know, I'm not 100% happy with Blick monopolizing everything. They do have the best prices. Stuff like that, stuff like this paper is really difficult to ascertain otherwise. So I really like the way that the eye starts to become watery. And what you're doing is you're paying attention to the edges, you're paying attention to lack of texture as opposed to texture, let's say in the nose. So that's what's going to give you the texture of a wet eye. Now she's starting to look like a cute girl. She was looking harsh, but I was not going to get emotional about it. I was going to let it cook. I'm following the recipe, guys. I want you guys to do that too. Follow the recipe. Stay with the program. Don't get upset if it doesn't look right in the beginning. Just keep it going. Thanks. So Willie says just a little bit of the pastel sort of just, it's amazing what it does. Yes, it just sort of transforms. And it's going to transform the rest. It's because we set this up. You know, it's like chess. You know, you set up your pieces, you develop your pieces, and then you attack. But you can't attack with just your queen because she has no one to back her up. Same thing, you know, when we're doing this technique, or any technique for that matter, but especially this technique, is you're building and building and building for that crescendo of coming together. And almost like Ravel's Bolero, you know, it's just, I don't know, have you guys heard Ravel's Bolero? I love that piece. It's a classical piece. And it just sort of slowly builds and builds and builds to the end. And then it just sort of explodes. It's really, really a wonderful piece of music. Yeah, that's the good thing about this live stream. We go off in all these different tangents, right? Classical music, books, and art history. So it definitely isn't boring, that's for sure. And then we take our stump, which is dedicated just to white, and not a stump that has been ever used for graphite. That would be totally bad. And you see that we are making sure we get rid of any kind of texture, because a wet eye has no texture. It's smooth. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to continue going into the detail of the eye. That's something I'm going to get to a little bit. What I can do, this is a trick. This is what I can do. Watch this, guys. This is what happens when an airbrush artist does 25 years of pastel. You can take this pastel, right? Even white pastel here, any color, but let's say white pastel. Put it on a medium grade sandpaper. You're not going to learn this stuff anywhere else. Then you're going to use that graphite on there, and you're going to use this, and you're going to use it like a paintbrush, and you're going to do these little flicks. See that? Little different, little cool. So you see that? It really gives some life. To that eye. And then you could just vary some of that. Just one of the ways that you could reposition pastel and use it like a paintbrush. This eye's in shadow, so it's not going to be as, even though, this is interesting. Thanks, Super Killer. And thank you, Wendy. Now, watch this, guys. We're going to go to the other one, and I'm just going to show you something, which I learned from Harvey Dinnerstein. And he set me straight many years ago. And this is... Oh, hey, Norm! Thank you so much. Yes, it is a very great technique. I learned that from my teachers at the National Academy. I love the way that we could, reposition pastels, not just use the pencil or the pastel stick. Oh, so I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to show you something that I learned from Harvey. So this is definitely in-depth information. So here we go. So, you have here, right? You have this eye and this eye. Even though with the beauty of photography, with the flash, this eye is almost as intense as this eye here. But it's impossible for that to happen because this eye is in shadow. It's working with a whole separate set of values. The values from light to dark are very close together and are on the dark side of the spectrum. The values on this side are much wider, and they're on the lighter side of the spectrum. It's impossible for this eye to be as light as this eye. It's a physical impossibility, but it's the way that the person actually positioned the light, and that's why. So what we're going to do, we're going to be a little smarter than that. And we're going to make sure that this eye is a lot less intense. Because what it's going to do, it's going to create a sense of dimension. So we're going to keep this eye darker than the photograph, because that's just the way it's going to give that impression of light and shade, of this eye being in shadow. It just wouldn't work if this eye was stronger. And if you look at the photo, it looks a little weird. This eye looks weird. And I think that's true, honestly. So anyway, that's what I learned from Harvey many years ago. And that's one of those aha moments. So I hope that, you guys felt helpful. Oh yeah, Norm, Cheers reference. That's pretty funny. So it's great to see you, Norm. Did your Sotar arrive? I'm anxious to hear about your Sotar. Well, thank you so much. Well, it looks like a photo, but you know what? I'm a little smarter than that photo, because I'm not just being a slave to the photo, because, I have that wiggle room, right, Jake? And we want to have that wiggle room. We can do what we want. It's our painting. And, we're thinking a little bit you know, a camera's not as smart as us. It's never going to be smart as us. A printer's not as smart as us, but a printer can do it really nice, right? Printer can print something out amazing. Superkiller says, right, I do have no idea how they manipulated with the photo manipulation software. So that's a very good point. And that's probably the case, you know. They're not painters, so they don't know. They don't have that sophistication of, you know, whether they're going to lose a sense of reality. I don't think they care. They have a different set of people they're trying to impress. Oh, so it says, Jake says, Superkiller says, look how old that comment from Jake is. Oh, that's an old comment, Jake? That's interesting. Oh, yeah, we are a little bit of a lag. Yeah, that is true with YouTube. Oh, great. So, guys, so Norm says that the Sotar arrived and lived up to his expectations. Yes, I'm glad I didn't steer you wrong. I knew I was gonna make you happy. Badger really knocked it out of the park, and that is fantastic. You know, right, guys? So definitely, I recommend it. I use this all the time. Okay, so here's something interesting. We have a little bit of dark on the inside of that eye, just a little dark where it meets the lower eyelid. And I think I'm running out of paint. Okay, so we're going to put a little more paint in here. Let's move her aside. And I'm just going to show you how I apply the paint. This is good for you, Norm. This is how I just take the eyedropper, 2 drops of ink in here, never more. That's enough for, and then I just go ahead and that's how I load the Sotar. But you'd be surprised how, you know, how well this airbrush with 2 drops, how long you get to get the paint with those 2 drops. And remember, always test your airbrush before you test it on your painting. Actually, Jake, the Sotar with my discount is like $104 and change. And I think you pay for shipping, not shipping, but I think you pay for sales tax and such. Yes, I was thinking about that too, Superkiller. Edgar Allan Poe, who lived around Jersey, New York City for a while, I think. Ah, thanks, Norm. So Norm says he loves the way I did the glass effect on the eye. So I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. So Willie ordered the Sotar, very exciting, and his arrives tomorrow. So next week I want a full report. And if you have any questions, you know you guys can always email me. You know, if you ever need to speak to Ken, he's always fantastic, and I can always, you know, give you his email address if you don't. Ken's the CEO of Badger, a really nice guy, and he's always willing to help people out if there's any issues. Yes, it is cheaper than the Eclipse. It came out just recently. I'll tell you, when I was talking about the Eclipse is a great airbrush, don't get me wrong, but something about this airbrush sort of supersedes Iwata. I think Badger is really doing something that is going to really give Iwata a real run for their money. So they're doing something really fantastic. And how do they make these airbrushes so inexpensive? Right? That's what I want to know. You see how I'm just making it darker on the ledge where the eyeball meets the lower eyelid. See that? It's going to give some dimension. Let's see. It's always interesting to find, but you usually find it with any, I find with any freehand shield, I usually find that edge I'm looking for. There we go. So I'm really enjoying some of the ways that these the pastel really works. Sometimes some paintings better than others, more than others, but this one is really working together. Now where this is going to shine here, we're going to do some of the texture here on the lower eyelid. It's a little stronger in the photo. I'm just calming it down because it is in shadow. Yeah, I think that's the difference, you know? Something about that needle, and it does feel really fantastic, the needle, it really does. When I wash the air, when I clean the airbrush, that needle just looks really nice. It has a different look about it. And I really love how easy it is to clean. It's the easiest airbrush to clean so far. Superkiller says, what's my experiencing doing the same pastel work with white ink in an airbrush? Oh, it's great. Yeah, you know, in the beginning of this painting, I used white ink to do the bulk of the lights, because the value of the paper is usually like right about here. So for me to get this large white area, it wouldn't have worked with pastel. But I used this here, and it worked really well. Yeah, the Iwata needle, Iwata is great. I mean, I would never, you know, I can't say anything bad about them. My Iwata airbrushes, they're just beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful pieces of work. And my eclipses and my high performance, you know, my high line. I have the CMC Plus, the top feed. I have the side feed. Those are great airbrushes. They are built beautifully. But the Sotar just seems like, you know, seems like an everyday airbrush for me. Like when I do the white paint, I'll use the Eclipse because it has that .35 needle, and I need that 3.5 needle when I'm working in something as thick as the white ink, because even though it's ink, this is still very thick, and I water it down, but white seems to dry and you know, get particles a lot quicker, almost the same as, let's say, acrylic. So I need a .35 needle to shoot that. I don't think the Sotar would do very well with that. I would even try it with a .20 needle. So Norm says, Superkiller had a comment last week about practicing in between projects. It stuck with him. He would be interested in knowing how you practice and how you can learn from your tips and suggestions. That's really great. You know, if anyone says they don't do dagger strokes and dots because they're good or anything, then no, never knock the Eclipse, man. That Eclipse will get you to where you want to go. That's for sure. That's a beautiful airbrush. That's a work of art as well. Yeah, do your dagger strokes and do your dots and play. And one of the things that you can do to really learn about how to airbrush is to play with the paint. Try really thick paint or thicker paint, and what you have to do to shoot through it. You know, raise the air pressure, maybe change the distance. You can't do stuff like this and do it well. Let me change the, there we go. If we can't do stuff like this, okay, you see how we had a little bit of skating? That's good. So you realize what you have to do. How are you going to do a dagger stroke and not have that skating? So I lowered the air pressure. So I even got a little bit, so I lowered the air pressure a little bit more. See that? Now I'm learning about what the ink does at several different distances. Dagger strokes going down, how important it is. Dagger strokes going up. Because when we're painting, it's not so much, okay, we're painting the eye, right? We want to learn what angle do we have to go to paint that eye, right? So do we go this way? Is this the way to go? Or that direction? That's when I became, that was a difference because I was painting, you know, my whole life. So when I picked up an airbrush, I was pretty much faking it. Meaning like someone who knows how to draw and has good penmanship, they could go ahead and fake calligraphy. But when you become really good at calligraphy, you know the strokes, you know what angles to go on, right? You know if you want that line, you know, it might be better to go up as opposed to going down, right? And let's say if you're doing the circle of the eye, you're not worrying about the outer line just yet. Right now you're just worrying about, you know, that dot in between. So those are the things I want you, and then play with, also play with your freehand shields. See what kind of edge work you can get with them. You know, how does a freehand shield work when you're, you know, maybe a couple of inches, or maybe a couple of, maybe a half an inch from the surface? What kind of edge do you get with that, right? As opposed to, you know, when you have the freehand shield right on the surface. What kind of, you're getting a different edge from here to here. Those are things that you want to practice. You want to practice how paint works on different surfaces. Let me show you guys something. Now, if I was to just paint in paper, I would do a disservice. Even though it's pretty cool, I know that the ink does something totally different on a different surface. So I made some of these boards. They're masonite boards. I put marble dust and gesso, and that's what I use for my pastel paintings. This is something that I learned many years ago, how to create my own boards. So what I did was I did these airbrush paintings with India ink and did them on these boards and learned that, you know, learned a lot about the paint Learned a lot about the airbrush, the ink. Learned a lot about what I can do, what I can't do, what paper is better at is, really it erases very easily. This doesn't erase easily. It's a lot harder to erase. So what can I do with board that I can't do with paper? With board, I can use razor blades. I use razor blade on paper, and then it's over. It's done, finished. So I can't do that, but I can do that here. I can use Frisket film on this. I can't use it on here. But that's only going to learn that stuff is when you experiment. These two paintings I did a neutral gray using golden, number 5. Let me go ahead and see that golden number 5 neutral gray. I use that as a mid-tone on the whole board before I started painting on these two. On this one, I put orange underneath, and then I did India ink on the painting on top. And look what happens, you have, so I'm not going to learn any of this, and I guess that's like a long answer for your question, but it's one of the most important questions I tell my students. You're not going to get better by the airbrush sitting on your shelf and being nice and dusty, nice and shiny. You're going to get better by just continually working and, experimenting and doing different things. And doing the dagger strokes and everything. So that is really important. And the only way that we're going to get any kind of control is by putting in the hours. DVDs and everything, they're great. But if anyone says, hey, I'm going to teach you how to get some control, tell them to go away, because they're not going to teach you how to get control. That only happens by doing, when I started airbrushing, all I did was practice circles, Can I do a circle? To me, that was like, I have control if I can do a circle. And that's something that I did so many circles. And another thing that I used to do, which was really great, is that I would take my airbrush to work with me, or when I was waiting for somebody. And, of course it looks like you're smoking doobies, right? It looks like a bong or a pipe. And so I would just sit there while I was on the phone at work, or I would just pretend to, I would pretend dagger strokes, I would pretend dots. I would do that when I'm away from I would do all that if I was away from the compressor. That's something that's very important. I heard someone say, do within when you're without. So when you're away from the compressor, you can still, in your head, do dagger strokes. So can you guys can't hear me? Or you guys okay? You guys should be able to hear me, because everything's okay on this end. Interesting. Yes, that's something that happens with YouTube. I think it might be the software. I'm not sure. But anyway, I hope that helps. And I think that's the only way that I think that anyone could really learn the airbrush, is by putting in the time, right? I really think that's the answer. Just by, not everyone has all the time in the world, but, just keep practicing and keep at it and don't give up. And that's what's really going to do it, I think. That's what did it for me. And, you know, my first airbrush paintings weren't the best, that's for sure. Wow, that sounds pretty cool. That sounds pretty scary, though. I don't know. I'm pretty much at this point, you know. Oh, so it's Willie says Timmy did the same thing. I always had the airbrush with me. Exactly. That's great. That's showing great tenacity. That's really great, Willie. I really admire that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to start putting in some of this large whiter area here. And that's going to bring her nose forward and give it more depth. And it even gives some softness to her, I think. So I'm definitely going to check that video out by Joel Cangelosi, How to Polish Your Airbrush Needle. And then we're going to come in with some dark accents next week and really finish this up. Let's see. And what we're doing is just establishing that little lower eyelid there. Then we can take our liner brush and this mixture and we can very lightly sort of create that depth in the eye there. Go. What's interesting about her eye is how it sort of comes down here. Okay, Wendy says, oh, Norm says it looks great, but we always want to continue and tweak here and there, don't we? Exactly. We always want to. We got to know when to say when, right? That's so important. But we still got a ways to go until, right? Who said it? Picasso? A painting's never finished, it's just abandoned. Hey, Willie. All right, man. Great to see you. Always fantastic. I'm so excited about the Sotar 2020 Slim arriving. I can't wait to hear your first impressions. It's always great to see you, sir. I love when you guys show up every week. It's so great, you know? It gets me pumped. So, what we're going to do is we are going to work on always got to clean the ink off of the liner brush, because ink will really destroy it if you don't wash it right away. So let's see. So we're going to create just a little bit of some lighter, more intense light here, hidden here, just here, because the light's coming from this direction, and it's the cast shadow of the nose is darkening this area, but this area is just a little sliver of her that is catching the light almost directly. And that's the kind of thinking that is really going to help you, is try and understand what's happening, why is it lighter there, and then it becomes logical, and then you can really more easily find the shapes. So I would like to take this fabric pen and there's a little bit of, take my glasses off for that. A little bit of a white there. So it connects it over here. Interesting. It's there, and not sure what that is, but I think that pulls her nose further to us and creates depth. Brings that nose forward. That's what we're working on. As we go further, we're starting to see things more like pulling and pushing, you know, what goes back, what goes forward. So is Super Killer says, is that girl just a model or a real female boxer? She's just a model from what I know. It's one of the free sites that have free images. So that's where I got this. So it was a royalty-free image. So I'm not. Most likely it could be. She could be a real boxer, but I just don't know the backstory. See how we're starting to really bring things together. Things are starting to become a lot more three-dimensional. You want to paint the cut of the light. You want to paint how the light is cutting across the form. The light is coming from the upper, like probably about this angle here. So you want to make sure that you are expressing that, expressing how the light is moving across her form. Her head as a whole, and then the larger features, the nose, the lips, the smaller features, the eye, the iris, the little bumps on the lips. but they're all being affected by that cut of the light of how it is going across everything. So we're really, okay, we're painting light, right? But we're really we're painting a model, but we're really painting light and its effect on form. And you see the difference between the eye, how I use the stump to make sure there's no texture. And here I sort of moved the pastel pencil so some of the darker color underneath is showing through to give that texture of her skin. See, it's not just hitting value, that's one thing, anyone could hit value. But if you can hit the value and the texture and the edge work, that's when you know, things start really looking powerful from across the room. And I can see here as I'm making this lighter, how much darker this is. But whether or not I want to put that in is up to me. I might like it lighter. So has any of you guys done any of these ink paintings lately? Or are you aspiring to try the technique? So yes, this is definitely not going to be done today. So there is going to be a part 4. Part 4 is going to be a little short, I think, because I don't think it's going to take a lot to finish her up. But it's good to take the time to bring it together. Let's see. Wow, thank you, Wendy. That means a lot to me. I appreciate that. And you see how, you know, we're just really just skirting the bottom lip there. Because the lip is really not getting all the light. It's getting just a little bit. This spot right here, for some reason, is facing the light source, so that's why you're seeing more light in that area. Look at the work of Johannes Vermeer. His work is the biggest example of light and how it plays on form. It's just those little things, you know, when you get to the point when you do all the other stuff correctly, you know, building up the form, modeling 3 dimensions, when you come with the light and dark accents, it explodes like Ravel's Bolero. And that's what I want for you guys' work. Still a lot of work to do here. So that's why this definitely isn't going to be over today. But even the forehead, you know, as we just go ahead and introduce some of those lighter values. Not as an afterthought, but as a progression of going lighter to darker. And then when you get to the point where you have everything except your darkest darks and your lightest lights, then you introduce those values, and then everything sort of happens. Like this forehead. And now the circular movements of this pastel pencil are pretty wide because I'm getting the lighter value as well as the texture of her skin. And if you notice on people's foreheads, the texture is a little rougher, like more porous. And it's not so much the value, but what value next to it and what are the borders between them. That's so important. Are they hard? Are they soft? Are they mushing together? Are they pressing up against each other like over here? Or are they really just sort of melting into each other like over here? That's going to be really important to getting drama in your work. So I think we definitely made some really good strides today. Even though we didn't finish, I thought maybe we would, but that's okay because we really got to go in with the hair, do some really nice hairs here. Maybe work on bringing this cheek a little further out and have that turn. So the cheek is going to turn as it goes into her hood, right? So we definitely want to do that. Oh, hey, Steve. So Apollo Lander says, Steve Pilgrim, new customer. Love your channel and appreciate your work in teaching. Steve, that means really a lot to us and a lot to me. This is such a great community. Welcome. And we meet every Wednesday night at 9:30. And it's just a lot of fun. And Steve, what I would want you to do, I want to do something really cool for you. Let's see. What I do is if you could email me at paintedglyphs@gmail.com. Here it is. I'll put it up. If you email me, what I will do, Steve, I'll send you this really cool ink ratio. It's really cool, and I basically this took maybe 6 months to make, of the exact mixtures of ink and water to get the values from really light to really dark to black, and takes the guesswork out of this technique. So, and also I could send you emails when new videos are coming out, stuff like that. And people are really cool here, you know, as you can tell, Norman, Wendy, and Super Killer. It's just, we meet every Wednesday night. It's great. And so I'm really happy you're here. So thank you so much. And so sorry you're catching the end of it, but no, don't fear. I'm going to put this up in its entirety on the YouTube channel, so you'll be able to see it. So that's cool. Thanks, Norm, for saying that. I appreciate that. And so let me put that here, paintedglyphs@gmail.com. Also, guys, if you go to usaartsupply.com, they are selling the airbrush that I was working with, the Sotar Slim, which feels like a pen in my hand. And if you use the code, I think it's 40% off right now. And if you use this code right here, Timothy PSA at usairbrushsupply.com, you get 10% off of that Sotar Slim. So it comes to like $104. And if you ask me, it's like a $300 airbrush for that price. So that's something to definitely check out. Well, guys, I had a lot of fun as always. I know why I look forward to this. I look forward to all week, and after it's over, now I know why exactly I look forward to it. Great people talking about art. I learned a lot from you guys today. So excited to talk Super Killer, Norm, Wendy, Steve. Who else is out there? Willie went home. I know that, who else is here? Well, I think Jacob went home. And so if I missed anybody, it was great hanging out with you this weekend. I hope you guys, great hanging out with you this week. I hope you guys have a great week. And I'll send you some email if a new blog post or anything comes up. Take care, guys.